Okay, good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, August 30th, 2021. This is the Select Board meeting. Of course, call to order pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16, 2021 order extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 18, to allow remote meeting participation until April 1st of 2022. The August 30th, 2021 board is being conducted via remote participation, and this is the first international selectmen meeting that has ever been held in Westwood, as far as I know. So with that, we do have something on the chairman's update, and I say that because I am in a little tiny island somewhere in the Caribbean, in case you're wondering. This Friday, fortunately, with pre-recording now, the Zip Trip is coming to Westwood. Channel 25, Fox 25, is holding a broadcast-only Zip Trip for Westwood on this Friday. The trip is generally on television from 6 to 10, and Westwood is the town being featured this week. Unfortunately, during the COVID, they are not welcoming live on-site crowds. So you'll have to watch on television if you figure out where it is, and I'm sure it won't be too difficult to figure it out. Maybe just swing by and honk the horn or whatever you might do. But the Zip Trip is a mix of pre-taped features, of which I know I was already interviewed to be on, and live interviews that focus on each town's strong sense of community pride, our first-class citizens, of course, our local attractions, and our hidden gems. Over the next few weeks, the morning team has been speaking with Westwood, and we have spoken with them, small neighbors, small businesses, everything in town. So it should be a great show on Friday morning. So be sure to tune in between 6 and 10. Also, just a quick reminder, Westwood Day is Saturday, September 25th, rain or shine. Let's hope for the first. It does not happen. All right, we start with a list of activities. We have a 5K run at 9 a.m., a fun run for our elementary school students at 10 o'clock. And then, of course, our event village and our food court will run from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. that day. So hopefully we'll be able to see you there. Also, one more special announcement. We have two important dates you need to mark on your calendar right now. We have a special town meeting, which will be held on Monday, October 18th, with a rain date of October 19th. And we do have a special town election on October 26th, 2021. Dottie would like me to remind you that the last day for voter registration is Wednesday, October 6th, 2021. This is the last day to register to vote for either the special town meeting or the special election. To give you an idea, on Monday, the 18th, the town of Westwood will hold a special town meeting, followed by a special town election. The residents who are registered will have the opportunity to vote regarding the approval of funding for the new elementary schools building project. In order for the proposed project to be approved, it will need a 2/3 vote at town meeting, and it will need a majority of the vote at the special town election. Again, the town meeting will be on Monday, October 18th. And if it rains, it'll be on Tuesday, the 19th. And our special town election will be on Tuesday, October 26th. So mark your calendars. Special town meeting will start at 5 o'clock. Registration will start as early as 4. Okay, moving on to our scheduled action this evening. Nora, I think you're up first. We have the change of manager down at the Courtyard Westwood.
Yes, and I believe there are 2 representatives from Schulte that are attending this meeting. I don't know if they have signed in yet.
Yes, we have Clint DeLee, who is the Regional Vice President of Operations. And
Elizabeth.
we have Elizabeth. Yes, we do. The
Great.
Director of Sales.
All right, so just to give you just a brief update, Michael Guzzi is the listed manager of the Courtyard Marriott on the alcohol and CV license. He left the employment of Schulte on May 27th of this year, and a new manager, Colin Fahey, began work that same day. Unfortunately, Colin soon gave notice, and he's departing, I believe tomorrow is his last day. Schulte had filed an application originally to transfer for a change of manager from Michael Guzzi to Colin Fahey, but they are now asking to withdraw that application since Colin won't be here long enough to stay on. So the Alcohol Review Committee met and discussed how to handle this. And the recommendation is that the select board allow a withdrawal of this application and allow Schulte some time to find a new hotel manager to take Colin's place. As you can imagine, the it's difficult hiring within the hospitality industry right now. And they were hoping to have someone on board before Colin left, but they were unable to do that. We do have Elizabeth at the meeting, and Elizabeth is the catering manager. I might not have that title right. Elizabeth, please feel free to correct me, but
Yeah, I'm the director of sales.
Director of sales. Elizabeth deals with the actual alcohol on the premises. But in the past, all of the alcohol licenses in Westwood have gone to the manager of record as opposed to the director of sales. So the Alcohol Review Committee wanted to bring this before the select board and see what you'd like to do, whether you would like to see a new application for Elizabeth to be listed as the manager on the application, or if you would like to allow the application to remain with the former manager, Michael Guzzi's name on it, with Schulte actually handling the management until they find someone new. And if you are interested in doing it that way, the Alcohol Review Committee recommends that you put some type of a time frame. They suggest 90 days on the alcohol license to let Schulte know that they have a certain period of time in which to find a new manager and come back to the board.
Okay, thank you, Nora. So, well, let's ask Clint. I understand that you're here. Clint is the Regional Vice President of Operations. Is 90 days going to be sufficient, or do you have somebody in the pipeline? Oh,
You're on mute.
we're not hearing you, Clint.
Love when that happens. Yeah, 90 days I think is sufficient. Just trying to find the right person to be some consistency and stability. We're interviewing at a couple candidates, but as you know, hospitality is very difficult nowadays. So I appreciate the extension of 90 days.
Okay, Rob, do you have any concerns, questions?
No, I mean, I would be fine granting the 90 days. And nor is there any downside in the interim of having the director of sales as the sort of person responsible on site.
So I think that's the way we'd like to see it happen, where Elizabeth is the informal contact person, the person that we're expecting to manage everything as she's there and the contact for the town, but not actually change the license until we have a new position a new person in the position of hotel manager.
That was the prevailing view of the Alcohol Review Committee, that we wanted someone on site while they recruit a new actual manager to be named on the license.
I'm comfortable with that, Michael.
Okay.
And Elizabeth is TIPS trained. She has many years of experience. She's been Corey certified, so we have no concerns.
I saw that in the background, so that gives me greater comfort as well.
Elizabeth has been working at a lot of sites, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Okay. So Rob, do you have it in front of you? Do you want me to read the motion?
I can make it.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so move the select board accept the withdrawal of the change of manager application and allow the director of sales, Elizabeth Fagan, to act as the on-site contact to town on all things alcohol related until a temporary task force manager is appointed with the following conditions. Contact information and start date of the temporary task force manager must be provided to Westwood licensing agent immediately upon appointment. And 2, application for the permanent general manager must be submitted to the Westwood licensing agent no later than November 29th, 2021.
Okay, and I will second out of necessity. Mr. Gotti?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. Good luck. Hope
Thank
things
you.
work out. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you within 90 days.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. All right, next up on our agenda, we have a special license for St. Mark's Greek Festival coming up. And I know this is, what do we have, the 4th or 5th year, somewhere around there. So Nora, I guess this is your lead again.
It is, and I believe we have Father George on the line, so he can correct me if I misspeak, but I believe the event is scheduled for September 18th and 19th. And the Alcohol Review Committee reviewed the application and recommends unanimously that the select board grant the license. We're asking for alcohol sales to be allowed on the premises, set up the same way it has been in the past years under a tent with a designated area for alcohol sales. The license would be from 11 a.m. on September 18th to 8 p.m. and then again on September 19th from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. That gives them time to have the alcohol set up beforehand and to break down after the event is over. This has been a great event in past years there, and there have never been any issues.
No, and I've actually attended several of them, not all of them, but several of them. And Mr. Ahern, who was part of the board at that point in time, we had a fenced off area, we had a special area for alcohol, and it's worked out really well. Mr. Gotti, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, the only thing I noticed in that the food license hasn't been either applied for or granted yet. So obviously that's always been part of the event. So I don't think that's a concern. Is it, Nora?
It's not. That's just a matter of time. And I believe there's just the logistics of getting the tent permit first and then the food service permit.
Yeah, because you'll need the building department for the tent and the Board of Health for the food. Okay.
Right.
I have no other concerns.
All right, then I will entertain a motion.
Okay, so let's see here. Scroll to that.
Page 11.
Page 11. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. I move that the board grants approval to the special beer and wine license to St. Mark of Ephesius for the Greek Fest 2021, valid from Saturday, September 18th, 2021, 10 a.m. through Sunday, September 19th, 2021 at 8 p.m. Time includes setup and cleanup, and to authorize electronic signatures of the select board be affixed to the special license application. This approval is contingent on the final inspections by the various town departments and public safety departments, as well as any possible future state mandated COVID-19 regulations on gathering sizes.
Okay, I only have one question, and Mr. Hearn, you might help me. Do we want to say 10 a.m. on Saturday through, what do we say, 10 p.m. at night, or I forget what time on Saturday, and then again on Sunday? It seems the way the license is written right now, it would be 10 a.m. Saturday through 8 p.m. Sunday.
You may want to properly adjust that. So 10 a.m. Saturday to 8 p.m. Saturday, and then 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Sunday to, I believe it's 7
o'clock on Sunday, yes.
7 o'clock on Sunday, unless the father thinks they need till 8 to clean up. I would defer to him on that.
If I could just point out that the license has to be in effect during the time that the alcohol is stored on site. And that's why Karen had written the application to begin on Saturday and morning and end on Sunday night. So there won't be sales overnight for storage overnight.
Okay, all right, it's glad we got that clarification. All right, so I'll take the original motion and I will second it out of necessity. Mr. Gotti?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you, Father. Good luck.
Hey,
And, hopefully the weather cooperates for you.
I hope so. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
And it is the Nora night. Nora, you're up again. We have a special request for a one-day liquor license at the Hale Reservation.
Yes, one more. This is for a wedding, and I believe Grace Steele is attending. Yes, there she is.
And there she comes.
So Grace is requesting a one-day license for a wedding event, reception at Cat Rock Field in the pavilion area at Hale Reservation. The date is September 25th, and the request is for a license to run from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., again, to allow for time for setup and cleanup as well.
Okay, same day, same, for those of you that are paying attention, that is the same day as Westwood Day, okay?
Yes, it is.
So, but it's after Westwood Day, so thank you very much, Grace, for not, conflicting with the town. That's great. Any concerns, Mr. Gotti?
None.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
I move that the select board grant approval of the special beer and wine license to Grace Steele for a wedding reception on September 25th, 2021 at Cat Rock Field and Pavilion, located at Hale Reservation from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. That time includes setup and cleanup, and to authorize electronic signatures of the select board be affixed to the special license application. This approval is contingent on the final sign-offs by the various town departments, public safety departments, as well as any possible future mandated COVID-19 regulations on gathering sizes.
And this has gone through all of the proper boards and we're good. So I will second that out of necessity. Mr. Gotti?
All right.
And I vote aye as well. Congratulations, Grace. Good luck. I hope the weather is great for you, so.
Thank
We're
you so
counting on a big day for Westwood Day, so the weather's gonna be just fine.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nora. And also, under scheduled action, we have approved the MWRA sewer debt. Ms. Dukeman, I think this is yours.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. And I'm joined tonight by Assistant Town Treasurer Kathy Foley. And the request tonight is to ask the board to approve the sale of $125,000 of a sewer bond to the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority. So this item at our annual town meeting in May, the town voted to approve a capital budget article of $500,000 to perform some inspection and repair work on our sewer system. The MWRA has an outstanding program where they partner with communities to help communities make sure they're constantly inspecting and repairing their sewer systems. And they do that by providing grant funding for projects and no interest loans. And we've done this a couple of times in the past.
Can you just repeat that for the public?
Yes.
What's the interest rate?
Grant and 0% interest loan. And we have done this a couple times in the past, and we'll have a few more allocations over the next several years as we go forward. So this request, a $500,000 project, the MWRA program will give us 75% or $375,000 in the way of a direct grant. And then the remaining 25% is a loan, no interest loan that we will repay them over a 10-year period. So we're getting that $125,000, we repay it over a 10-year period or $12,500 a year. And that repayment in debt would be within our sewer budget, within the regular debt budget. So it's an excellent program. Again, we've done this a couple times before. I think the last time was 2016. A great way to help communities make sure that they're constantly inspecting and repairing their sewer system. I will point out that Town Treasurer Gavin, Assistant Treasurer Foley, and Bond Counsel have gone through all the documents, and everything is in order for your approval to take a look at and approve tonight.
Okay, now that you've made that great presentation, I have a question for Mr. Ahern. I believe that this will have to be certified by the clerk, who is not in attendance yet. So should we hold this until our clerk is
Yes.
here to be able to read the vote? Yes.
Yes.
I think Dottie is on the list, but
Well, it says
no, Tish, is Dottie,
Clerk of
can
the
you
Select
upgrade
Board.
Dottie?
Dottie's an attendee right now. We just have to move her to panelist.
No, I think
we
he's
can move
referring to the
Deep Power to
motion,
the-
because the motion says,
motion.
I, the clerk of the select board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
Oh, I'm sorry.
He has to
Yeah,
sign
I
that.
think that's,
John has to sign it there.
John's gonna have to sign it, so we'll have to wait for him to take the vote. So he can read the motion and do that. I should have noticed that, but I didn't until I looked at the motion. All right, so if you guys would just hang tight for a few minutes. we should-
Sure. Yeah.
Pam, has bond counsel said whether he wants wet signatures or will he accept electronic signatures?
We're gonna do wet signatures for this.
Okay,
And I believe Tish has, Kathy are making some arrangements to get that done.
as soon as possible, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm sorry, ladies, you'll have to wait just
Sure.
until Mr. Hickey arrives so that we can have him do the motion properly and make sure we get the bond done. With that, let's move along to our new business. First, we have acceptance of a fire department grant for assistance to our firefighters. I would assume that Chief Deckers is joining us.
Yes, if he can be moved
Brought him in.
from attendee to panelist, that would be great. Thank you.
Good evening, Chief. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we understand that you have some money for our town, so absolutely. We like anyone who's getting a grant for our town.
I'm always out there looking for money. What we had done is we're in need of replacing our self-contained breathing apparatus. Our initial plan was to do this in FY26. That's where we had budgeted the monies. However, a change in the national standard that was just adopted last year basically wiped out 11 of our existing packs. In the past, we were able to utilize these until they failed a service test. We're no longer allowed to do that. They actually, because of their age, have to be taken immediately out of service. So we lost 11 out of the 40 packs that we have last year. We're scrambled around and got some in to bridge the gap. And that's when I decided that I would apply for the Assistance to Firefighter grant to look at completely replacing our system. The original grant request was for $664,000. However, as you can imagine, there's many other departments in the same situation as we are. So the granting authority basically has doled out less money, and we were only really granted $90,112. So we have a match to that. So effectively, I'm asking the town to allow us the award of $85,820.95. And then we are going to aggressively work at swapping out our complete system as fast as possible. One of the reasons we were waiting is because the technology has changed, and when we upgrade, we're upgrading to the newest standard and also the newest equipment, not with all the bells and whistles, just to get us by with what we need. We're not going with a lot of the high tech stuff. So that's why the price was where it was. But since they only gave us $90,000, we have to go with that. We're going to use some money that I have in capital to bridge the gap to get us just enough packs to put on our frontline pieces. And then over the next year, my plan is to fully upgrade the system.
So Chief, the match of 5%, you think you'd be able to come out of your budget?
Yes, I have that allocated to take out of our budget already. I had set aside in this year's budgets in hope of getting the big grant, $37,000. So we have plenty of money to handle the $4,291.05.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Gotti, any questions?
And Chief, this will allow you to fully replace the 11 that were taken offline?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, then I will entertain a motion, Mr. Gotti.
I move that the select board accepts the fiscal year 2020 Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program funding of $85,820.95 awarded to the Westwood Fire Department.
And out of necessity, I will second that. Mr. Gotti?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you, Chief, for your hard work. Keep up the good work. We always like grants to help, get us through. So thank you.
I'm looking for more.
Okay. Keep it
Thank
up.
you very much.
Thank you.
Nice, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
So Pam, you thought we had to keep you around anyway, you know that. So,
Sure, no
all
problem.
right. So next you have our fiscal year 2021 year-end financial update.
So we'd like to come in at this point in the year before we, start moving forward in the fall and budget talk, and especially this year with the fall town meeting, we'd like to just go through and give a brief overview of how we closed out the year financially. We'd like to preview that with the select board before we start taking that out to other departments. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, can you see that, everyone?
Yes, we can.
I realize I haven't done that over the summer, where we've not had financial. Okay, so just quickly taking a look at how did we close out FY21, and just the overall summary. Obviously, a very, very different year with COVID and all that involved for us. But while there were some significant extra costs, all of that was covered by outside funding. Our revenue in FY21 closed out smoothly. Real estate, motor vehicle collections on target, comparable to other years. An important item was, despite the state's challenges with COVID, we received our full state aid with no disruptions. And then we'll show you that while our hotel and meal tax revenue was disrupted with COVID and was down, as the board is aware, that flows into a separate account. It's not part of our general fund ongoing operations. So our overall year-end close was not impacted by that number. And finally, our FY21 expenditures, we'll take a look at. Departments closed out all of their budgets smoothly. As we mentioned, a lot of the extra costs they had were covered by outside state and federal funding. Departments worked to maintain and stay inside their budget appropriations. There was a little bit of reduced expenditures in certain areas because there wasn't the traveling and conferences and other activity that might normally go on during the year because of COVID. So in summary, despite the challenges of COVID, FY21 on a financial basis closed out very smoothly. All of our revenue and expenditures on track with prior years. So just to go through a little bit of that, but just a reminder, as the board knows, the budgets you put forth each year to town meeting are just very structurally sound, well-balanced budgets. The select board works hard to do that. Those are the budgets approved by FinCom and then our town meeting. So our budgets do not have one-time subsidies. We are conservative with revenue. We're not looking to inflate our revenue. As I mentioned, the meal and hotel tax going to a separate fund, only to be used and appropriated when the funding is there. Town meeting has really helped purposely over time build our reserves to our appropriate target levels. So really we've designed the budget and our finances to make sure that we can maintain our essential services, school and public safety during any rainy day disruption. So we certainly were well positioned by what the board has done in the past when we had to address COVID. And we talked before about other towns having different implications because they haven't had some of these strong practices in place as you have put in place over the last couple of years. So again, we were able to really weather the COVID financial impact, including no cuts to state aid. We did not have to use our reserve accounts at all. We had discussed that at a certain point. And again, that significant outside federal and state funding really helped us. So just looking quickly, there were significant additional costs and change to operations by our town and school departments, staffing impact, purchasing PPE equipment, a lot of technology costs to make sure town and then particularly schools were set up for remote and hybrid operations. With the election process were different, some of the vaccine clinics, just a great deal of different operation and cost impact. And really can't thank enough our department heads, municipal and town staff, our school staff and administration and elected officials for doing all they needed to do this past year to keep town services ongoing during this, most unusual year. So a lot of different changes in services, and it was very fluid throughout the year, constantly changing, lots of extra cost, but we did receive outside funding to help us, and it really covered everything. So we've looked at this before, but just quickly, the state CARES money that was passed to us from the state of Massachusetts, we used about $1.29 million. Most of that was for the schools, about $960,000, and $330,000 of municipal. So this was really the bulk that let the schools do what they needed to do technology-wise to get into their remote and hybrid operations. The school also had some specific school reopening assistance from the state, $675,000 that they used last fall to put in place what they needed to bring students back into school safely. There was some other smaller funding for schools for some specific relief, $20,000 and two $85,000 grants. The town received some small funding for election and Board of Health. And then the FEMA money, which was mostly for our public safety operations and the kind of building maintenance impact and PPE. Difficult working with FEMA throughout the year. We mentioned before, kind of the rules kept changing, but our department has worked hard to make sure to kind of access as much of that funding as they could. We currently have in a request or about $600,000 for all of that. So significant change, significant cost. We were very fortunate to get this outside funding, state and federal. And again, we greatly appreciate all the support of all of our school and municipal departments in keeping operations going, doing what they needed to do to make sure we got this funding. As you can imagine, a lot of paperwork, a lot of making sure we were applying in the correct ways and all of that. So really, that was a huge help. So now as we look, if all of that was covered, if we just look at our regular ongoing town budget, first on the revenue side, our revenue budget for FY21, $105 million. The pie chart shows how that revenue comes in. 80% of our revenue shown in the blue piece of the pie is from tax revenue. We've talked before during the budgets, that's a very difficult model to work with where we're so highly reliant on our tax base. It's very difficult on a budget basis to try to maintain and improve services, always having to just rely on our taxes. But on a budget to actual collection basis, it's a very consistent model. So we took in $82.6 million in taxes by year end, or a 99% collection rate. So our collections have remained very strong. They're consistent year to year. We certainly thank our residents for all of they do to help us achieve that number. So really, where most of our revenue comes from taxes, that's such a consistent source of revenue. It means our overall revenue and financials are in good shape. Two other just quick things on taxes. We always look at what's outstanding in past due taxes. First, at tax title. We, at year end on June 30th, had about just over $700,000 outstanding in tax title. We have to point out that's cumulative from all of our years. So we bill about $80 million a year in taxes. All we have outstanding is $727,000. You can see when we look at prior year, that number was a little bit higher than where it was on June 30th in our previous years. Two things. One, some of the legal proceedings with tax title were put on hold during COVID from some of the changes with state law. I'll also point out that the Treasurer's Office received a large payment in July, $100,000 for a property that was able to close out their balance. So that number has already come right back down. So no issues there with that at all. And then just looking at tax deferral, which is the program available to seniors in town to postpone or defer paying their taxes until they sell their house. We have about $570,000 in tax deferral. Again, that's cumulative all years. And you can see that that's right in line with where we were in previous years. So great program for our seniors to take advantage of. And I'll point out that the seniors in that program, it's constantly changing. So it's not that it's the same people all the time sitting there. Each year, some seniors sell their house, move out of town, and some new seniors come in and enter the program. So again, really no issues at all with our main source of revenue, our tax collection. Just looking next at state aid, it's about 6% of our total budget. You can see by the bar graph shows last several years of our state aid. And in FY21, $6.5 million. We've really had no significant increases in state aid for several years, but also just as importantly, we've had no significant disruptions. No mid-year cuts. It's been very steady, even with COVID. The green bar shows our budget for FY22, $6.6 billion. So this was something we had talked about at different points during the COVID budget discussions, that perhaps if we saw a cut in state aid, we would need to use our reserve account to plug our budget and make sure we could sustain our services. But we, through FY20, when COVID first began, FY21, and then our budget for FY22, no disruption at all to state aid. So that's been very important. Finally, one other revenue source, local receipts. Collections right on target with what we've had in previous years. Total collections of about $5.6 billion. That exceeded budget by about $1.4 billion. Again, right in line, both of those numbers with prior year. Very consistent collections. Our largest revenue category in the local receipts is our motor vehicle excise collection. In FY21, shown in the green, we collected $3.6 million, a slight increase from the year before, which had a little bit of a downturn. We talk about it in our budget process a lot. We're very conservative with the motor vehicle excise revenue. We never like to push that revenue expectation in our budget process. That does then give us the cushion that if we see any downturn because of economic activity, we're able to still sustain our main operation. So again, very consistent for FY21 with motor vehicle. Just looking quickly at the meals and hotel tax revenue. So again, just to emphasize that when our town first adopted that revenue source, our select board recommended and town meeting approved that that be directed into a separate fund, that it not be used in our general fund, and that it not be used for operating budgets. So the money goes into a separate account. It is only used by town meeting vote, and we use it for capital projects. So this year, a town meeting appropriated just over $1 million for a turf field replacement at the high school and some pool repairs. And it's really important that town meeting took that action to put this into a different account. These two bar graphs show you what our actual collections were for the meals tax on the left and the hotel tax revenue on the right. The bars in green show the actual collections for FY21. So you can see that both of those revenue sources were down from prior years, and the FY20 source were down from the year before. So this revenue certainly was impacted during COVID. I will point out that the state on the hotel revenue changed the timing of the turnover to the state that the businesses had to comply with. So we may not be looking at a pure apple to apple comparison here. But still, this definitely was, we saw fluctuations in this revenue. And again, the volatility that you can experience with this revenue during an economic downturn is exactly why we don't use this to fund our ongoing operations. Again, this was an item that we saw, we were in a different position as we went through these COVID budget years than some other towns who are directly putting this money into their operating budgets, and that gives them a problem when they have this kind of fluctuation. Finally here, this graph on the bottom shows what's outstanding at the end of each fiscal year in that meal and hotel tax fund. So in FY21, at the end of the year, on June 30th, we have $1.2 million in that account. Again, we used some of that money at this year's May town meeting. We had not used any the year before, so the FY20 balance in the account was a little bit higher. But we have, starting off this current fiscal year, $1.2 million in that account. Just looking quickly on the expense side of the budget. So our general fund operating budget for FY21, just over $98 million. The pie chart at the bottom shows by what categories comprise that budget. Shown in blue of our operating budget, the schools obviously are our largest piece, about 49% of that spending, or $48 million. The municipal budget shown in red, about 22% or 21 million. And then our fixed cost and reserve accounts, about 18% or 17 million. This is where we pay for all of the health insurance, pensions, benefits for town and school employees. And again, despite kind of the COVID impact and a lot of the challenges, because all of those extra costs were able to be paid with outsized funding, our operating budget closed out right on track. So we show each year like the turn back from the operating budget. So town meeting appropriates budgets. Not every dollar is spent from those budgets, and what is not utilized is turned back. Departments cannot carry that forward into the next year. The money is turned back to be reappropriated by a subsequent town meeting. So this bar chart shows how much has been turned back each fiscal year from operating budgets. In green, our turn back for FY21, 2.6 million. That's about 2.8% of budget, and really is in line with the year before, which was 2.3 million or 2.6%. So I think it's important for residents to know we do not utilize, if departments don't need every dollar of a budget for some reason, they turn that back to the general fund. Again, they can't kind of overspend that or carry that forward. So normal turn back within FY21. Just looking quickly at the detail of that turn back. So we mentioned 2.6 million for FY21 and 2.3 for FY20. And you can see by category where that's coming from. The benefits budget always has the largest piece of that. This year, about $1.4 million turned back there. We always have some margin for that budget because it's such a large budget. There can be so many fluctuations during the year as far as people getting on or off benefits and our various payroll taxes. So that's where the largest piece is. The municipal department had about a $500,000 turn back, or 2% of the budget. Again, most of that was, as I mentioned, because of things that couldn't occur during the year because of COVID. So there was less traveling, training. We also had some staff transitions during the year in some departments. Again, if the department doesn't fully utilize their budget, the turn back happens. And finally, we have one budget each year, the FinCom reserve. By state law, we have to set up a reserve account within our operating budgets that's available for anything emergency that might come up during the year. In FY21, that budget was $405,000. We fully are turning that back as we did the previous year. So we have not really had to utilize this budget in a couple of years. Departments, municipal and school have lived within their town meeting appropriations, and we've not had to go and drain this reserve account. And so then that's available to be turned back and helps with that number. Just a quick look at snow and ice. The bar graph shows our spending on snow and ice over the last several years. We always talk about, and it's reflected in the bar graph, that you never know what's going to happen. It's up and down every year as far as what actual spending might be. In FY21, shown in green, our total spending was $523,000. So a little bit higher than the year before, but certainly not as high as some peak years that we've had. The select board will recall our traditional snow and ice budget was only about $250,000, and our historic average is about $450,000. The select board in FY19 began to increase that inefficient 250,000 budget, increase that up. Our budget currently now stands at 450,000. That's been extremely helpful to us in covering the actual cost of snow and ice and easing our use of that FinCom reserve account. So the years when we haven't gone to the FinCom reserve has been because we have better appropriated to the snow and ice budget. In FY21, we had that original snow and ice budget of 450,000. We did have town meeting supplement that. We added $150,000. So the final budget was 600,000. However, DPW director and department did not need to utilize all of that money. So we actually had a turn back of $76,000. And again, I want to point out, I think that's important for people to know, when we were adding this supplement at town meeting, we're doing that in our public hearing process in March. We're not 100% sure of what else might be needed to close out the winter. So we went with the 150,000 amount. They did not fully need that, and so did not fully utilize that. So the department's not just spending every dime they get. If they don't need it, it's turned back and closed out. Just a quick look at our stabilization account. This is the town's main reserve account, protects the town against emergencies. It's a huge, huge part of our credit rating. And as you know, we have the AAA rating, the highest rating that we can have. And that's so important to us when we sell debt. Our balance right now, as we start out fiscal 22, we have $3.7 million in the stabilization account. We're just about on target of where that should be by our financial policies. We've only just done a very small increase each year, 125,000, I believe, each year at town meeting to keep on track of where we are. And again, we talked a lot about in those times when COVID first came on and we weren't sure what was going to happen as far as significant costs or cuts to state aid. We talked about being able to use this stabilization fund. That would have been an appropriate use of this to help us get through a difficult time, again, without cutting police or fire or teaching positions. But again, because what we talked about, outside funding being available, no cuts to state aid, we did not need to go to our reserve account during this past year. So that's very important that we're still, in good shape there and at our target level. And then just finally, a look at free cash. We always talk about, that's a terrible name. It's kind of just unique to Massachusetts. Free cash is really just a town's retained earnings. We are budgeting to balance revenue and expenses each year. But at the end of each fiscal year, as we went through, there's some budgets that have not been spent. There's some revenue that might exceed budgets. All of that really closes out to retained earnings. Department of Revenue certifies that amount, and then that's available to be spent, takes town meeting action in future years. So we did just receive our free cash certification. I do want to thank Town Accountant Maria Leary and also other financial staff for what they had to do. We have to submit a lot of our information, balance sheet, financial activity to Department of Revenue. They then certify our free cash. So they have certified us this year at $7.2 million. The town has been very disciplined the last couple of years with our use of free cash. We never use it for operating budget. We use that for our capital budget articles at town meeting, and if we need anything for snow and ice. But our financial policies require our reserves to be in two places: free cash and our stabilization reserve account. So we are in really good shape with this number. This year at town meeting in May, we used $2.6 million of our previous year's free cash. We used $2.3 million for school and municipal capital. That was actually $1 million less than what we've done in previous years. So as I mentioned, we at this year's town meeting in May, we did that additional capital article utilizing the meal and hotel tax revenue. So the $1 million we spent on our turf field and pool, we used the hotel and meal tax, not state aid. So we used a little bit less in free cash than we did in previous years. So just looking at the chart in the bottom, this chart shows each year in blue what we've certified in state aid, and then the green, how much we've used. So you can see here in this year closing out, the green was a little bit less, as I mentioned. We used less in capital than we had in prior years, and that's why our balance is a little bit higher than in previous years. So 7.2 million certified, previous year was 6.1, and the year before that 6.6. So all else, everything was equal. Using a little bit less in the prior year gave us this balance. That puts us right on track for where we need to be. Our policies require us to have about 3.5 million unallocated, unvoted, sitting in free cash. So to meet that number would let us put about $3.7 million into our budget when we start doing the FY23 budget. And that's for capital, any other articles at town meeting. And again, that's right in line with what we've been doing the last couple of years. So it's important. It will let us maintain what we've been spending on our capital budget for school and municipal departments. So this is important that this came in these right spots. So really a walkthrough of how our year ended. Again, to summarize as I began, crazy year, lots of changes because of COVID, but our departments did a great job in still staying within budgets, not utilizing all their budgets, doing what they needed to get those outside state and federal dollars. Other revenue came in fine. We did not in the end have to go to our reserve accounts. So we're really kind of right where we always are at the end of the year. We're in great shape. Our things that are important for our credit rating are in great shape. And that's going to be very important as we go forward with our special town meeting process. If the town approves that school bond and we go back out to market to sell some debt, we're in very good shape financially as we go forward with that.
Excellent. Thank you, Pam.
Mr.
That's
Chair?
as always, I know this isn't on the agenda, but I'm just going to say that congratulations again to your department. If you extend our congratulations, and I'm sure we'll do it again more formally, but the town of Westwood did get a certificate of achievement again in financial reporting. And this, I believe this is what, the 20th straight year?
24.
24. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump you.
34. No, it's counting. No.
24 years of great reporting, and it's easy to see by your presentation. So thank your entire department for us. Mr. Gotti, do you have any questions or?
No, I did not. Pam, thank you so much for, the thorough reporting, and, we are really doing a great job with not allocating that hotels and meals tax.
Yes.
That is, not everybody is so lucky.
Excellent. Well,
Mr.
thank
Chair,
you.
if I may?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Again, it's great job by Pam and the finance team for the award and all the work that they've done. But one of the things I just want to emphasize is dealing with the additional money is great. Don't get me wrong. Dealing with it and understanding the rules and being able to take that information and pass that on to all of our departments and our team members took a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of patience. And I just want to thank Pam and her financial team for all that work to help us understand what we could use the funds for, and also being able to tell us what we couldn't use the funds for.
Yeah.
So, but there was a lot of work and a lot of changes in the rules along the way. Pam and her team did a great job, and I just wanted to thank them for that.
Thank you, Chris. And that was very challenging because it was, all brand new and it kept changing. And I also want to just add our finance team worked on that, but also Cindy Barenthaler in the DPW does our FEMA applications because typically that's only for snow and ice or some kind of weather emergency. But a lot of the money for COVID came through FEMA, and Cindy did a great job in doing those applications for us. Thank you.
Okay, so still waiting for our other member to join us. I'm gonna try to jump out of order and jump to old business for just a couple of minutes because Pam has a couple more presentations and I think she might need a glass of water or at least opportunity to take a break. So let's go to the allocation of Westwood Media Center transfer of funds. Rob, you're so good at this one. I know you can lead this one, but basically this is a transfer that the town has with the Westwood Media Center to transfer funds that we get from Comcast and Verizon for those people in town. So the total amount is $102,444.85, and comes from our contracts with both Verizon and Comcast. So Rob, do you have any questions? I'm sure you don't. You know this
I
better.
do not. I'm very familiar with this, and so I would move that the select board approves the transfer of $45,097.39 from Comcast, as well as $57,347.46 from Verizon, totaling $102,444.85 to Westwood Media Center per the license agreements and the Westwood Media Center agreement signed by the select board.
Okay, and I will second out of necessity, Mr. Gotti,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, so we have some appointments. Tish, did you want to say hello, and since you're doing all the work behind the scenes, and tell us about
Yeah.
our.
We have one appointment tonight, Mr. Alden, Mr. Eric Alden for the Historical Commission. He met with the chair, Nancy Donahue, and Chris Alden this past week, and they have approved him to be appointed as a member on the Historical Commission.
Mr.
So we
Chair,
just have
Mr.
one this
Alden
evening.
Is an attendee if you'd like him to be moved to panelist.
He is here.
Sure.
I told him he didn't have to attend, but we'll see.
Okay.
There he is. Here he's coming on.
Okay. Here we are.
I'm always in the background anyways, Tish, so I appreciate the opportunity to serve on the commission and thank the town for the consideration.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you, more importantly, for stepping up and volunteering in one of the important commissions in our town. So with that, Mr. Gotti, have anything, or would you just like to do the motion?
I would just like to echo your thanks, and I'll do the motion. I'd like to move that the select board appoint Eric Alden as a member of the Historical Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2024.
And I will second out of necessity, Mr. Gotti,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, Eric, for stepping up. Congratulations, and
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
as one of the
Thanks,
other
Eric.
to say, our door is always open if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you. Okay. So let's go. Pam, you ready to go back on for us?
Yes, sure. Yep. I could do just the debt Hamlin School piece.
Why don't we
Or,
do- How about senior exemptions for?
sure.
Well, Mr. Hickey's on, right?
Yeah, let's take
Hey,
this.
all.
So you want me to just show you like the senior exemptions?
Sure.
Okay. So I just have a super quick here. Okay. We just wanted to point out, because some of the discussion with the special town meeting and the petition article that had come forth, there was a statement made in that the town had not adopted anything from Chapter 59, which is the Department of Revenue rules that let communities provide exemptions for our seniors. Wellesley and Needham, our surrounding neighbors, had put programs in place. So we just wanted to kind of clarify that to say that that's not correct. Westwood has adopted the senior tax exemptions. We've adopted many exemptions for veterans and all different programs, but particularly with the senior exemptions, we have adopted those, Chapter 41. We have that in place. The state program allows you to adopt and then adopt some options based on different exemptions. And Westwood has adopted the most generous options based on age, the exemption amount, and the income and asset limits. We have gone back to town meeting and increased those, and we have the most generous that we can have in place by state law. So I just wanted to point out the Department of Revenue tracks for every community. They track what exemptions have been adopted, and they have that table on their website that anyone can go in and access. So I just pulled from that website Westwood's program, and then Dedham, Wellesley, and Needham. And you can see here that we have, exactly in place what our neighbors do. So we have all of the same programs in place that our neighbors do. I'll point out here, this is the one where there's an option. The age that we have for the 41C is 65 or older. The base starts out at 70, but you can lower that, and Westwood has, and it's similar amounts for the different exemptions. So again, that's on the Department of Revenue website. Anyone can go and look at that, but we certainly have the same programs in place as our neighbors. And then just quickly to remind people of other programs beyond the exemptions that we have in place for senior tax relief. We have the tax deferral program, which is where seniors can put off or defer payment of any of their property tax until their home is sold. Our town meeting has adopted a reduced interest rate for that program of 3%. Our town meeting has adopted the maximum income limit per the state rules, which is currently about $58,000. So I mentioned that when we were looking at our tax collections. We have a very active tax deferral program. A lot of our seniors participate in that. It's a great way for them, in those years where they know they're going to sell the house at some point and they'd rather put off paying their tax payments, they can do that. We also have in place a very active senior workup program that's been in place almost 20 years now. Town meeting has gone back and increased the number allowed in that program and the amount they get working in taxes several times. Currently up to 100 seniors are eligible, and we've adopted again the maximum allowed by the state, currently $1,500. So we've changed our language to say whenever the state maximum goes up, we automatically can increase. We don't have to keep going back to town meeting. And our staff at the Council on Aging does an excellent job in getting people into this program and getting them out to departments and getting them places to do the work off. So they are eligible to work out in town and school departments and get up to $1,500 off of their tax bill. And then finally, our Aid to the Elderly Fund has been in place since 1999. We are by far the most generous program in the state in this area. We currently distribute $100,000 per year to about 55 senior residents in town. This payment goes directly towards their tax bill. What we are able to give each year pays about 25% of their total tax bill. So just wanted to point out, we have many seniors participating in all of these programs, as well as the exemption. So again, we have quite a bit in place, quite comparable, and in fact above in many areas from some of our surrounding communities.
Excellent. Thank you, Pam. That's great. Good to know, to let residents know what we do have to try to help our seniors with their tax bill. So, Pam, I'm going to give you another little bit of a break while we do some other business and then come back to you on the Hamlin School. So, next on the agenda, we're going to do on the new business article, the third article, which is a discussion about 2021 fall town meeting, whether to hold it or whether to cancel it. The charter requires that the select board decide by September 15th, so we still have a little bit of time if everyone's not comfortable, but I think Chris can confirm that there is nothing pressing for the fall town meeting, and we have discussed it with Pam. There's nothing financially that needs to be pushed before a fall town meeting. So with that, I'm okay that we not have a fall town meeting and just hold the business until the spring. Mr. Gotti, any concerns with that, or?
No.
Okay, John, any concerns with that?
No, it makes sense.
I mean, I just think, especially with the special town meeting coming up, that there's no reason to waste another set of dollars to do another town meeting so quick and back to back. So, okay, I will entertain a motion. Rob, do you want to take this one? John, are you ready to do the motion, or should I have Rob do it for now?
No, that's fine. If Rob can do it, that's great.
Go ahead.
All right, we've jumped around a whole lot, Michael. Give me a
Got
page.
page 63.
Thank you, brother. Okay. Here we go. I move for the select board to vote to cancel the 2021 Fall Town Meeting and to order that its notice of decision with regard to such meeting be posted in accordance with Chapter 2, Section 6-1, the business session of town meeting of the town charter.
Second,
Okay. Mr. Hickey,
aye.
Gotti,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Okay. Next, we have the special town meeting discussion. The special town meeting is going to be held on October 18th, and as we discussed, with a possible rain date of the 19th. We have we have two proposed articles, but Mr. Hearn, did you want to address the property tax exemption petition?
Mr. Ittig has a property tax exemption petition. He has 31 registered signatures as certified by the Board of Registrars. The town charter states, section 138(7), as provided by law, Massachusetts General Law, chapter 39, section 10, 200 registered voters may petition the selectmen to call a special town meeting. 100 registered voters may insert an article in the warrant for any special town meeting, and 10 registered voters may insert an article in the warrant for an annual town meeting. The October 18th town meeting is a special town meeting. Mr. Ittig would need 100 signatures to place his warrant article on there. You, as the members of Board of Selectmen, have almost unbridled discretion on what warrant articles you want to place, but I would recommend that be left for the annual town meeting. Now, were we having a fall town meeting in November, the fall town meeting is considered a second session of the annual town meeting by bylaws. We are not having it. You just voted to cancel it. So it's appropriate that article be placed on the annual town meeting. It would be a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, for you to put an article on a special town meeting with less than 100 signatures, because you may be bound by that in the future, or other future select boards would be, which you don't want to be. So I would recommend that you just place the proper bonding for the school and the school override on the special town meeting vote.
Okay. John, any concerns?
No, I'm fine. My preference would be that the special town meeting solely be for the school debt exemption.
Okay, Mr. Gotti?
I'm in agreement with that.
And let's make it unanimous. So I agree. So we'll only have the school as the only article for the special town meeting on October 18th. I don't think we need to take any action at this point in time. I didn't see a motion
I
necessary.
think you need to vote that be the only warrant article.
Sure.
Right, so I move that we move forward with the special town meeting in the fall of 2021 with the sole warrant article being the Hanlon School project debt exemption.
Rob, second.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Gotti?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Okay, now, John, you're gonna have to go back, my friend, because page 16, we held this because it requires the clerk to make this motion and then to sign it, so might want to get a drink of water first, because this is a long article.
It is a long motion.
Michael, can I just ask one question?
Yes,
Was
you can.
that to close the 2021 special town meeting warrant, or was that the motion?
You also have to vote to close the warrant
Okay.
article. She's correct.
I move that we close the warrant for the 2021 special town meeting.
I will
Second, Rob?
second.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Gotti?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Okay, thank you, Tish.
Okay.
All right, John, did you
So-
find that vote?
Yeah, is this the MWRA sewer debt?
It is, yes.
Okay. I, the clerk of the select board of the town of Westwood, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting of the board held on August 30th, 2021, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified and at which a quorum was present, the following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appear upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted that the sale of the $125,000 sewer bond of the town dated September 13th, 2021 of the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority is hereby approved, and the town treasurer or other appropriate town official is authorized to execute on behalf of the town a loan agreement and a financial assistance agreement with the authority with respect to the bond. The bond shall be payable without interest on August 15th of the years and in the principal amount as follows: 2022, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29, the sum of $12,500 in each year. It's further voted that each member of the select board, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing vote. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by a secret ballot, that a notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda for the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal building of the office of the town clerk is located, or if applicable, in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.03(2)B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting, that no deliberations or decision in connection with the sale of the bond were taken in executive session, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, as amended. I, the clerk of the select board of the town of Westwood, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting, is that a repeat or a second bond?
That's
Sounds
it.
like a repeat.
It looks like a repeat. The only
Okay.
clarification I would make, John, is I would add 2030 and 2031 in there. I think you stopped at 2029. So
Oh, sorry, they went to the next page. Okay, so let me just read that last part again. Though. The bond shall be payable without interest on August 15th of the years and in the principal amount as follows: 2022 through 2031, the sum of $12,500.
Be
What's
paid
that?
annually, yes.
Right? Is that it?
that's it. Yep.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Mr. Gotti,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you. Okay. Let's
Just a reminder to the three of you, this requires wet signatures.
Yes.
Tish will have it at the police station for them or up in the office?
I put it at the
Nope.
police station.
No, there'll be a Kathy Foley's office here at Town Hall.
Yep, they can come to my
Yeah, correct.
office. Michael's already, John and, sorry, Rob. Next couple of days would be great if you could make it by then.
Sure thing.
Okay.
Do my best.
All right.
Thank you.
Like the last thing we have on our agenda before we go into executive session is you, Pam. If I didn't miss anything, right? I know I jumped around, but I think I grabbed everything except the last presentation on the Hanlon School project.
Yes. I'll just go through this quickly, but as we go forward with the special town meeting, and as we start having the meetings with the Finance and Warrant Commission, and the first will be September 8th, and then the public hearing later in September. As they review that project, the school administration will be talking about the specifics of the school project, but we will be going through the debt and estimating the cost of the debt and what the tax impact is. So we have this is a longer presentation. I'm not going to do it all tonight, but it was included in your packet. We will be doing this presentation with the FinCom on September 8th. We're going to, before we start talking about just the debt and tax impact, talk a little bit about debt in general. There are some new members on the FinCom. This is such an important and large bonding that we want to make sure everyone understands how it works. So I just wanted the select board to see this package before we take that to the FinCom and see if you have any suggestions for changes. We're not going to go through all of it with you because you've been through this before, particularly in the spring when we sold some new debt, we came in. So just wanted you to see some items that we'll be pointing out to them. So first, just to clarify that the project will cost about $87 million. It will be financed in two ways. A grant from the state, the Massachusetts School Building Authority. They partner with communities to help build schools. It's an excellent program. The MSBA now pays their share as the project progresses. For those who have been involved in the town and finances for a long time, that is different than our last project with them, which was the high school project. That project, they waited till you were done, you went and issued your bond, and then they paid you over the course of the bond their share of principal and interest payments. That's not the case anymore. They're going to pay their amount as they go. It's excellent. The balance of what is not financed from the state grant, we will do with a long-term 30-year bond exempt from Proposition 2.5. So that's how we will finance it. We are picking the 30-year term to better match the long-term life of the asset. As well as we're going to do a level debt payment bond. So what that means is almost like with the mortgage, it will be the same payment every year for the 30 years. That is a little bit different than we've done for previous bonds, where we do a level debt and declining interest payment. But with this level debt, we are spreading the cost of this project over today's residents and tomorrow's residents. We don't want to overly burden those in town today, because this school will have, if approved by the residents, will have a long life and be utilized by residents coming to the town, moving in 10, 15, 20 years. So the structuring of this debt better spreads that cost over the future residents. A reminder that the town has an excellent credit rating. We just had that reaffirmed in the spring, AAA. That's the best we can do to help us get the lowest interest rates. When we sold a bond for some previous items in the spring, we got excellent rates. We sold a $7.7 million bond, got 1.14% for our rate. That bond had terms varying from 8 to 20 years. We also sold a short-term one-year note that had a interest rate of 0.24%. So been a great interest rate environment. We've been able to capitalize on that, and we would look to do that with the school project. We will review with the FinCom kind of our total debt outstanding. That's what's shown on this slide. I will just point out here on the bottom, the town currently has in total $32 million in outstanding debt. The chart here shows that as we issue new debt, we see that amount go off, but then it drops down very quickly as we start to pay off our debt. So our last peak was in FY17 when we issued debt for the police station project, and we've come down quite quickly down to the $32 million. We'll go through again with the FinCom, our total debt of $32 million outstanding. We'll go through each of those pieces and show them what's comprised of that. But I wanted to point out on this slide, the second column, the outstanding rate of interest, the net interest rate for everything that we currently have outstanding. You can see how incredibly low the interest rates are. So for what we just sold, 1.1% net interest rate, we were able to refinance a couple of outstanding bonds at that same time. Even our police and fire station debt, which was sold in 2015 and 16, we had 2.6 and 2.4 for our outstanding, for our net interest rate. So just, it's been really a long-term, very low interest rate environment. And so we have some great rates in place for this debt. I'll just point out quickly, we currently have about $9 million in debt that's been approved by prior town meeting that we have not yet issued. The first two pieces of that are components of the school project, the eligibility phase of 1.7 million, and then the bridge funding that was done at the May town meeting, 1.4 million. When the school project goes forward to the special town meeting and they talk in terms of the total project costing $87 million, those pieces are included in that number. It's not an additional above that. They are included in that number. And so these borrowing authorizations would be included when we go out and issue the bond for the larger school project. We also have $4.6 million from the road improvement project. That's the funding that's out there now, doing all of the road work that's occurred and the great sidewalk and crosswalk work going on this summer. We're going to issue that debt next spring, and that debt's going to come right in line. We'll show you with our last road bond dropping off. Then we had the MWRA, the 500,000. You did that tonight, only 125,000 in debt, and then a small amount, 650,000 in some capital projects. So although we have a large number, it looks like, of what to be issued, that's really all within our current debt budget. Just a quick peek, and we'll go through in more detail with the FinCom. We have financial policies on how much debt we should have, how much debt we should be paying within our operating budget. Our financial policies indicate the green is where we should be as far as the debt payments, and our actual is the blue. So we are, at a very good position as far as having room and being in line with where we need to be on our total debt. We will again review with the commission, and we did with the select board this spring, the sale that occurred in March, $7.7 million. We underwent an extensive credit review at that time. The AAA rating was reaffirmed, and really that's just such a great reflection for a small community, and it's a great reflection on all of our boards and committees who work on all of our budget and financial information, with our select board, the Finance and Warrant Commission, our elected and appointed town staff, and our town meeting that we talked about in that last presentation, really just being putting forth really good budgets, making sure we have good reserve in place. This is where we see the payoff of that with the high credit rating, and then that lets us get the low interest rates when we sell bonds. So again, just in March of this year, we got 1.1% rate for a 20-year bond of 7.7 million and a 0.249 for a 1-year borrowing. We did ask at the time that this borrowing occurred that if the school debt had gone forward at that time in the spring timeframe, and we were selling a 30-year bond, what interest rate might we have received? And we were advised that that would have been about the 2% range if that 30-year bond had gone forth. Again, we'll go forward with the Finance Commission and go through this a little bit further, but as the Select Board knows, we also refinanced 2 current bonds in that March sale, the Thurston Modulars. That bond originally issued had 8 years remaining. The library bond, we were about halfway through the new library $9 million bond issued about 10 years ago. The town treasurer, Gavin, was able to include those in the sale, refinance those. We received in total $1.1 million in budget savings on what we had been anticipated to pay going forward in the remaining life of those bonds. So that was terrific. So important that, not only are we trying to get low rates for new debt, but also looking when we can to refinance anything out there that's existing. And I'll point out that that was the second time Treasurer Gavin has refinanced some bonds, 1.1 million savings on these 2. He also refinanced the high school bond halfway through the 20-year term of that and saved over 2.7 million with that. So he's always looking to take advantage of what the interest rates environment is and get the lowest rates for the town. This slide, and we'll go through with FinCom, just shows for debt within 2.5 how that payout is happening going forward. FY22, the current year we're in, shown in green, $3.1 million. As I mentioned, a current road bond we have in place ends in FY22. We make that last payment. When Treasurer Gavin issues that new $4.6 million bond that's been approved already by town meeting, that debt's going to fit right in. We have this drop off. The new debt will be issued in the spring. And so that debt will be paid and just replace what's rolling off from the road bond. Looking at debt outside 2.5, current year, we pay $1 million in debt for projects approved outside Prop 2.5. And that is only at this point, the high school and the library projects. So as I mentioned, we refinanced the library project and we're able to bring down that amount by about $750,000 in total, or $75,000 a year for the next 10 years in what we're raising in taxes outside 2.5. And then importantly, the high school. We are at the tail end of that 20-year bond. We make our final payment in FY23. So we'll see a drop off in that exempt debt, and that will happen before any new debt would be brought on, again, if the elementary school project is approved. So again, important to note that that 20-year bond for the high school, which was the largest bond we ever issued for the town. We are at the final end. We'll make our final payment next year. We'll go through. This shows again on the old way that the MSBA paid us. This shows the debt each year for the high school project. And as that ends in FY23, the bar shows the total debt each year. The blue is what's coming from MSBA. So they currently give us $1.4 million a year towards that debt. So when that debt does end, it's a $1.8 billion debt drop off. 1.4 of that's coming from revenue and about 400,000 from what we're collecting each year from our residents. Again, still important that this is ending before we start any new school project. And then just finally, a couple of slides on that would be our debt review on what would be the cost of the new school project. So as we mentioned, $87.8 million, about $18 million will come from the MSBA, the town's portion just over $69 million. We will issue that as a 30-year level debt bond. We're showing on a couple of charts what's the total cost of that bond, and then what's the annual debt payment that we'll make. And then we're showing what's the cost of that to per $100,000 of home value, and what is it to our average home. So right now, we're showing on this chart that if we got the 2% interest rate that we would have received in the spring, for this debt, it's $69 million. Our annual debt payment would be just over $3 million, $55 per 100,000 of home value. And our current average home value per the Department of Revenue is just over $837,000. So that home would have an annual payment of $462. And at the bottom, we're showing what that drop off of the high school debt means. That debt for that home would be about a $60 drop off. We have this chart, which again, we'll go through with the FinCom, where we're showing, well, what is that payment for every level of home value? So if your home is valued at $500,000, that annual payment for you would be $275. And we go through a range showing from $500,000 up to $2.2 million. We also at this chart on the bottom show, well, what is the different ranges of home values in town? And about 50% of our homes in town fall between a $600,000 and $1 million home range. So that's why we're focusing on those values as far as when we're showing what is the average annual cost. But we're going to make sure that people can calculate it for whatever their home value is. So finally, just to summarize, we will be showing the impact of the debt at a 2% interest rate, a 3% interest rate, and a 4% interest rate. So our conservative estimate is the 4% rate. The annual cost there would be $72 per 100,000 of home value, or $602 for that average annual home. But again, at a 2% rate, that drops significantly to $55 per 100,000 or $462 a year. So again, we cannot guarantee what interest rate we will get, but as we showed some earlier slides, it has been and continues to be a historically low interest rate environment. We, again, are structuring this bond as a 30-year bond. The lower the interest rate, the lower the total cost to the town, and the lower the average annual cost. So we're showing this. We don't want to try to tell people that we can guarantee the 2% rate. So we will always show the 2%, 3%, and 4% rates and what the impact is. So again, that's something a little bit different than when the school project was first being talked about a couple of years ago. We were just using the 4%. But as we get closer now to that project and closer to when we were actually issued the bond, closer to some recent experience we just had in the spring, we are comfortable in kind of showing this range, because it is probably more likely that we would be down in the lower percent than we would be up at the 4%. So again, this is just the presentation we'll go through with FinCom, going through debt in general, our recent debt activity, and then looking at the various cost impact of the project to the average home.
Excellent, Pam. Thank you. That's very, very helpful for forecasting for the future. So thank you very much. Rob or John, anything?
Good.
Okay. Rob?
Pam, only one question really. The chart you show where there's the gap between the 8%, which is to maintain the AAA, And when you factor in the stuff that's going to roll off, where would this put us relative to that 8%?
So that chart actually, Rob, is the debt within 2.5. So that,
Thank you.
yes,
Okay.
we do, yes. So we're fine with that. We have different parameters for kind of total debt. And we would be, when this debt comes online, as I showed with that one chart, we would kind of pop up in those early years and then come down very quickly with our outstanding debt.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pam. I think that's the last presentation you have tonight, I think so.
That's all I have tonight, but I thank you for your time on that because again, we like to come to you. We'll go to the FinCon on September 8th, and then we'll incorporate any feedback we get there as we start to prepare presentations for a special town meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, the last thing we have on our agenda is the approval of regular meeting minutes from August 9th, 2021.
I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes from August 9th, 2021 as presented.
I will second that.
Okay, Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Mr. Gotti,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Now, the select board will be going into executive session to discuss 4 issues, one pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to discuss the value of real property located on University Avenue. The second is pursuant to 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss the strategy with respect to litigation. And the third and fourth to discuss, under Chapter 30A, Sections 21A and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for union personnel, which the discussion would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if such discussion were held in open session. The board will not be returning to open session this evening. The next time that you can catch us on the Westwood Media Center will be live on Wednesday, September 8th at 6 p.m. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I move that the board adjourn for purposes of going into executive session.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Gotti,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great holiday
Great night.
weekend. And we will see you next on September 8th at 6 o'clock.